Welcome to our special coverage as the UN General Assembly opens its 80th session in New York. And Palestine has been taking the stage for this session. Now, France, the UK, Australia, Belgium, and Canada joined many other states in recognizing Palestinian statehood, drawing loud applause inside the UN, while Israel and the United States stood isolated on the sidelines. Today, Spain's king stressed the need to deliver humanitarian aid to the people of Gaza without any delay, and affirmed that what the Israeli government is doing is unacceptable. And just a few minutes ago, Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky delivered his remarks after him discussing the latest developments in the conflict with Russia. At the same time, Donald Trump, the US President, addressed the UN General Assembly or the UN General Debate for the first time since his return to office, where he said negotiations have to resume to end the war on Gaza, and criticized Washington's allies to recognize the Palestinian state, saying the move rewards Hamas. He also questioned the purpose and role of the UN in ending global conflicts, saying he ended 7 wars without the UN's help. Welcome to this special coverage where we tackle all the developments up to this minute. Now, Egypt's Foreign Minister Badr Abdulati has reiterated its rejection of displacement of Israel's starvation policies in Gaza that came during his meeting with his Cypriot counterpart on the sidelines of the UN General Assembly. Both ministers discussed regional issues, notably Palestine. Abdulati praised the historic partnership, stressing Egypt's eagerness to deepen coordination, especially as Cyprus prepares to assume the EU presidency in 2026. He called for stronger economic trade and energy cooperation, including linking Cypriot gas fields to Egypt, and highlighted the importance of Egyptian labor in Cyprus. Qatar's Emir Tamim bin Hamad Al Thani has warned at the UN Security Council that abandoning international law for raw power risks normalizing the law of the jungle. He condemned a deadly strike on a meeting of the Hamas negotiation delegation, calling it state terrorism and a violation of international norms, stressing Qatar's mediation with Egypt freed 148 detainees. He said Israel's leadership exploit wars to expand settlements, entrench occupation, and block peace. He urged support for Palestine's recognition, Syria's unity, and Lebanon's sovereignty, while denouncing Israeli aggression despite disinformation campaigns. He vowed Qatar will persist in mediation across Gaza, Syria, Lebanon, and Africa. His final address to the United Nations General Assembly, Japan's outgoing Prime Minister Shigeru Ishiba called for the recognition of the state of Palestine, describing it as a matter of timing rather than possibility. Ishiba condemned Israel's unilateral actions, saying they threaten the path to a two-state solution. He warned that if such actions continue, Japan may adopt a new stance in response. His remarks signal Japan's growing concern over the escalating tensions in the Middle East as he prepares to step down after the upcoming Liberal Democratic Party leadership race on October the 4th. French President Emmanuel Macron has said if US President Donald Trump wants the Nobel Peace Prize, he needs to stop the war in Gaza, and he is better positioned to do so than France. Macron said only Trump has the power to put pressure on Israel to end the war in Gaza, commenting on President Trump's speech at the UN General Assembly. Macron said he sees an American leader who is actively engaged, highlighting Trump's emphasis on resolving multiple global conflicts and his apparent desire for a Nobel Peace Prize. Macron added that achieving such recognition would only be possible if the current conflict in Gaza is brought to an end.
The day after in Gaza to stabilize the land. And we need a political perspective. And this is why we took this decision on recognition. But after almost 2 years of war, what is the result?
A United Nations inquiry has said in a report the Israeli government has shown a clear intent to establish permanent control over Gaza and ensure a Jewish majority in the occupied West Bank, according to the UN Commission of Inquiry on the occupied Palestinian territory. Israeli forces have carried out widespread destruction of civilian infrastructure, expanded military buffer zones, and altered Gaza's geography, resulting in Israeli control over 75% of the Strip by July 2025. The report also accuses Israel of policies aimed at forcibly transferring Palestinians, expanding settlements, and annexing the West Bank. It cites intensified settler violences in military raids in areas like Jenin and Tulkarm as contributing to mass displacement and what it calls the Judaization of Palestinian areas. Israel has rejected the findings with its Geneva mission, calling the report politically driven and accusing the Commission of having the facts backwards. U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio has said that the U.S. has not received any official detainee deal letter from Hamas and would reject any proposal that doesn't include the release of all 48 detainees. Rubio emphasized that peace in Gaza can only begin once Hamas disbands and all detainees are freed. He also dismissed recent moves by some U.S. allies to recognize a Palestinian state as irrelevant without a negotiated settlements involving Israel.
There's still a war going on, and all these things standing in the way of a better future for the people of Gaza.
Right, we move now live to the 80th session of the UN General Assembly, where the Iranian President Masoud Pezeshkian is addressing the participants.
And so that airstrike from Israel and the USA regime on the cities and the buildings in Iran at the time that we were going back to the negotiations track is such a great fall in diplomacy and a breach on the peace and international peace and security, because this targeted the children, the researchers, the women, and it made the international community mistrust the peace in the region. And so we didn't face these these international laws and breaches, because these atrocities will be shown to the whole world. And having the international guarantees and not having them here, and targeting the leaders and the journalists, and targeting the negotiators and the people with experience in the military field, just for their knowledge and experience, were killed. They killed by this 35,000 civilians in Gaza. They took food, drink, and even medicine from them, and so those who committed such atrocities, the targeting the journalists and the media coverage staff, and killing the people that are taken hostages, just because being experienced in military. So those who committed such atrocities must know that Iran has faced such atrocities in its history. So this nation, with its will and showed that they can face such attackers, and so facing such people, they will they will hold on to their religion and unity. And this showed how fake the striker was, but this made us stronger, because the Iranian people, even though they have sanctions, economic sanctions, that are brutal, and they continued war on Iran, still Iran united and took action with the first bullet that was struck on our country to protect our people. And so, by the name of all the Iranian people, I show my appreciation to the organizations and the international and the national that stood by us. And so today, after 2 years or more of starvation and killings in the occupied land, and with the atrocities that are done to its neighbors, so a greater Israel isn't approved by us. And the plan and the timeline that they offered shows their regime, and it exposed them. And so such wills and objectives, its war criminal is supporting it now. And so it is very clear that this regime and its supporters aren't satisfied with normalization through political ways, but they force it and through atrocities and strikes. And so this is not peace, this is not control, this is occupation and bullying. But their imagination of Iran is among its neighbors having stability is unacceptable. So the stability and unity we have the stability and unity needed to face such threats. We have a future that we will have a future that where our countries will grow, and will grow through modern solutions. We will use energy and economic stability. We will have a future where we protect the environment, a future where the peace of and the sovereignty of the country is non-negotiable. A future that is strong, and its power comes from peace. And so yes, force here, we don't have a place for force here. So we were one of the first supporters to have a region free of mass destruction weapons. But they breached the proliferation truce, and they are making it even stronger and more brutal, and they refused that in the past week. And so 3 countries stop with pressure from the USA. 3 European countries have a resolution reactivated from the Security Council that was expired, and complying to their and with the withdrawal from the joint plan. And they then tried to stop Iran's efforts and described it as not enough, and that destroying such agreement that they thought of as one of the greatest diplomatic achievements. And so these operations that got their refusal from the council, they weren't legitimate and they weren't supported from the international community. And so I declare again that Iran didn't want and does not want to build a nuclear bomb. Our objective isn't to create nuclear arms, but according to we will. This will not be our objectives according to our principles and religion. And so those who cause instability in the region accept Israel's lies and target Iran. And so there is a poem that if someone is causing instability in the region, and someone on the other side of the world is paying for it. And so we need cooperation and trust to build a brighter future. And so in this context, we support the peace operation between Armenia and and our hope is that the outcome of this operation will cause the bilateral relations between the 2 countries will be better, and that the efforts in Ukraine will have a long-lasting peace between Ukraine and Russia, and will stop the humanitarian crisis that this has caused. And also Pakistan's and Saudi Arabia's agreement when it came to a joint military council through the cooperation of Islamic countries in Asia. And again, we condemn the Israeli brutal strike on Qatar that led to some of the Qatar civilians dying. And we declare our support to Qatar. Peace isn't through force, but it is through mutual respect and trust and bringing the point of views together. And so according to this and in this context, I urge you all to listen instead of trying to to see the reasons of the brutality in the world. And so that causes more tension in the nations. And we reiterate that the principles and what we don't want for ourselves, we cannot force on others. We need to step away from the fake justifications, and we need to look into the international community to bring back a cooperation, an organization for cooperation and security. So, ladies and gentlemen, we distributed our forces in the world, not through starving the children or killing them in Gaza. We didn't do that anywhere, but through being in cooperation and especially that I need to mention here that we are just one soul. We are like one body. If one, if one of us is hurting, the rest of the body will feel that. If you are not hurting, you are not human. Those who are killing the children and are cannot be called humans. They are not humans, and they are not credible partners. Here in this context of cooperation, we are a trusted partner for all and supporter to all the countries who want peace and friendship. And in the context of template and the future, we, the Iranian people here, we are facing the occupiers, and we have faced the discrimination and the force. And today we have transformed the Iranian people achievement to a jump towards a better future, to change the threats to opportunities. And thank you. In the name of
Right, that was the speech of Iranian President Masoud Pezeshkian at the UN 80th General Assembly session, where he condemned the Israeli aggression on Gaza and condemned the Israeli attacks on Doha as well. Pezeshkian also mentioned the nuclear talks and stressed that Iran's objective is not to create nuclear arms. He also spoke about his talks with the IAEA and also addressed the international community's double standards towards accepting what he called Israeli lies, and while making strike on Iran. And at the end, he called for peace to prevail in the whole world. And for further analysis, we are joined from Cairo by writer and political researcher Ahmed Maharim. Good afternoon to you, sir, and welcome to Qnews. Now, how does Iran's positioning at the UN reflect its broader strategy of presenting itself as the defender of the Palestinian rights?
Hello. Because of the conflict, Iran to present the views of the president of Iran. Actually, number one, it defends itself on the region. Secondly, it has to show how the solidarity with the Palestinian and how to condemn the attack happened to Qatar the last 2 weeks ago. I think the president of Iran to be in town and to address this kind of a strong statement is kind of appreciation, because what's happening now, most of the Arab and Islamic countries, after what happened to Qatar, I think there is different dialogues, how they can continue being close to each other, not only in diplomacy and in the region of the United Nations and so on, but also in the military. What happened right now between Pakistan and Saudi Arabia to have this kind of negotiation to be having a strategy in the future. I think Iran is going to play a very important role with the region for the next few weeks, and in order to have a strong relationship military against what's happening in Israel and Gaza, the Arab and Muslim, Iran has to play, I think, a different, very important role.
Mm-hmm. Now, how significant is it that Iran chose to frame Israel's actions in Gaza explicitly as genocide before the UN General Assembly?
It's a good question, but I think you can find a different analysis to the matter. Iran has suffered a lot the last 12 days of the war between Iran and Russia, Iran and Israel. I think if United States was not capable enough to stop the war itself, Iran was capable, I think, to give more damage and more.
But here, Mr. Maharim, do you think that the Iranian president meant to put such a terminology or a description? Do you think this would be framing, or the framing, such framing will gain traction internationally, especially among the global South nations, or do you think it will just remain largely rhetorical?
No, I think the first opinion you said, I agree with it, because the treatment the American administration have started to treat the diplomat of Iranian, starting from the president himself. They give them very hard time, I think, to be in town. They give them some kind of instruction. They are not allowed to go to certain places for shopping or to buy certain products and don't buy another certain product. That's kind of insulting to the Iranian leaders. So I think what's happening that Iran has to show something different towards what's happening from Trump's administration towards them.
Mm-hmm. In your view, does Iran's rhetoric on Gaza strengthen or weaken its credibility on the global stage, given its own contested human rights records?
I think all what you said is consider it can happen. Iran is one of the very important Middle East countries. Years ago, by the time of Shah, they used to be a very important ally to the United States. And what's happening now is quite different between the influence of Israel. They would like to stop Iranian from having the right to have a kind of a strategy to do their nuclear, whatever strategy.
Right. That was Mr. Ahmed Maharem from Cairo, the writer and political researcher. We thank you so much for joining here on Q News. And I guess that concludes our coverage for the minute. We'll be with you all the day with several other coverages to follow up all the developments. Many thanks for joining us, and stay tuned for more updates here on Q News.